Jim, thanks for joining us. Well, first of all, I want to ask you, this survey was done back in February and March of this year. It was interesting. It showed a jump of favorability toward police in Wisconsin from 40% up to 50%. Why do you think that was?
Well, this has clearly been a tumultuous last year and a half for law enforcement across the country, including Wisconsin. And we've been conducting this poll for 3 years, and we wanted to use the poll this year to see whether or not the media themes that people are seeing in the national media in particular, whether or not they're translating and how they're impacting the public's perception here in Wisconsin towards law enforcement. And we were very pleased that of the 3 years we've been conducting this poll, that the evidence seems to contradict the perceptions that some may have just from following the news and seeing those themes. The public approval for law enforcement was as high this year as it's been in the 3 years we've been conducting the poll.
All right, so it is consistent in Wisconsin. However, one of the gaps you do see is if you're a minority and you were asked, does your police department reflect your values? Only 37% would say yes, but if you were white, you would say 77%, and that's still a big disparity.
Right.
So what are they doing about that to try to change that in Wisconsin?
Well, one of the things we're trying to promote as we go around the state and talk about these poll results is initiate a dialogue that we're really not seeing on the national scale. And I'm not aware of any law enforcement group in the country that is engaged in this way in terms of trying to evaluate the public's perceptions on these issues. And so I think that's the first start, the first step rather. You have to initiate the discussion, and once we have a general understanding of what the problems are, then we can begin to take meaningful steps on how to best resolve them.
Okay, also interesting, if you were in a community of 150,000 population or less, you also seem to be more on the same page as your police department. Why do those smaller departments seem to do so well?
That's a good question. They're probably less likely to have some kind of use of force incident, statistically speaking, so that may contribute to it. They probably have a lower proportion of their constituents that are of race or of color, and so that may play into that as well.
Why do you think it showed 82% were in favor of those body cameras? Why do you think that was so important to the public?
Well, we had a sense that body cameras would enjoy a lot of public support, but no one's asked that question. We thought this is something incumbent upon us, perhaps, as we try and initiate a dialogue around the state on this issue. It's incumbent upon us to ask the question, and so in this way, this poll question did prove our assumption in this regard. 82%, and it's clear that we think that the public recognizes that this will add accountability. This may stem and diminish the number of controversies that may occur because there isn't where there isn't video evidence, and it will really ultimately add to the credibility that people have and maintain in our law enforcement officers. And so in that way, we think it'll protect both the public and the officers that serve them.
Well, I tell you, one of the ways that we've noticed in our community that police are trying to reach out or really kind of bridge the gap with the public are those police academies.
Right.
What would you call them?
Citizen academies.
Citizen academies.
Yeah.
Okay. So why do you think that's been so effective, and why do you think that's spreading to different parts of Wisconsin?
Well, I think for this very reason. I think we've really seen in Wisconsin over the last 10 years a proliferation of these citizen academies because it allows people to learn a little bit more about the vital functions and just the daily functions of any law enforcement officer. That's something that needs, I think, to be expanded in terms of whether it's town hall forums or whatever, or events like this, opportunities like this, where we can initiate and engage the public and find out how they feel, and at the same time, perhaps improve their understanding of basic law enforcement issues as well.
Yeah, and people may not know this in Wisconsin, but you're thinking that this may be the only police department or association in the nation that actually does this survey on a yearly basis.
Right.
It's probably giving you some very valuable feedback.
It has. I mean, last year we asked a question about how people felt, how much they supported the independent investigations of officer-related deaths, and the support was overwhelming. And we used that polling data to help get passed in the state legislature a law that mandates independent and transparent investigations of any officer-related death, and we're the only state in the country that has that. So I think Wisconsin, in many ways, not only in terms of the training of our officers, but hopefully in terms of the job that we're trying to do to advocate on behalf of them, we're ahead of the curve.
Okay, then finally, before I let you go today, okay, so we know what happened in Ferguson, Missouri. There was that incident. We also saw what happened in Madison when a black teen there was also killed. Has any of these recent things that have happened either in Wisconsin or around the nation changed any of the types of ways of thinking when it comes to the Wisconsin Professional Police Association? Anything you're thinking of doing new or anything that's put in place since then?
Sure. Well, we're trying to step up and enhance what we've been doing, and that over the last 3 years in terms of gauging the public perception of these issues and then talking about that to try and lead a dialogue. And I think that's the best way to explore changes and be able to be open to potentially different interests and incorporate them. And I think that's how you achieve meaningful change. I think we've done that before, and so I think we're going to use these. Sometimes controversial and many times tragic incidents to promote a dialogue that we're just not seeing around the country generally.